to my brother Jonkus, who you might know as a Pokemon content creator.
This is the story of how I got the easiest shout-out of my life. Or, I mean, how my brother was actually able to win the Barcelona special event, and how this win actually going to have a huge impact on the play Pokemon meta moving forward. But to understand why, let's rewind to where it all started, the team. TheZzweilous has been known for a long time already to be one of the most unique players when it comes to team building. He manages to get actually to day 2 of Liverpool Regional last season with his trusty Ampharos, which was kinda unheard of the time and was insane spice for that one. Looking at TheZzweilous' team for Barcelona, we don't see that much spice. His team consists of Medicham, the Shadow Alolan Sandslash, the Shadow Venusaur, Pelipper, Sableye, as well as Lickitung. With the recent meta shift of the new season, we have seen a huge increase of Lickitung plus Medicham cores for the play Pokemon tournaments. And also TheZzweilous is of course going to utilize this insanely strong core, but he also uses some very interesting Pokemon to go along with this one. For example, the Sableye. Sableye is a very common pick in the Show 6 tournament, but TheZzweilous Sableye was actually the only one that made it through to day 2 of Barcelona. Well, Sableye right now is the best counter most likely for the Medicham. Against Lickitung it's kinda tough, but actually you can sometimes flip the Zero Shields matchup if you can land 2 returns over the Lickitung, which going to come in clutch later on. Shadow Venusaur on his team got a huge increase also in popularity this season, as grass types definitely have more play as the most common flying type is now part ground type, but also Lantern is very common, same goes for Swampert as well as Medicham, and Venusaur is very strong in taking those down. Venusaur was also the one Pokemon that carried TheZzweilous into day 2 of this regional, being the MVP of the first day for TheZzweilous here, and definitely something a lot of people were expecting to see quite a lot in day 2. Pelipper is most likely the most unique Pokemon that TheZzweilous decided to bring to the Barcelona regional here, as the most common flyer is usually Gligar, and even though the usage rate in the top 16 for Gligar was fairly low this time around, if you want to really run a water and flying type Pokemon, usually you see Mantine more often now after the Aerial Ace buff, especially as you're going to have great coverage with Ice Beam and Bubble Beam for potential Gligar or like other flying type Pokemon on this Pokemon, as well as just the superior bulk over Pelipper. But Pelipper on the other hand is a little bit squishier, but has a little bit of better charge attacks, with Weather Ball and Hurricane having a little bit more damage output is very cool, and of course TheZzweilous utilizes very nicely here. The final Pokemon going to be for his team the Shadow Alolan Sandslash, a Steel and Ice type Pokemon which got a great increase in popularity over the last season, especially after the addition of Drill Run onto its moveset, but also now this season with Gligar being the most popular flying type Pokemon, being double weak to ice is very great, as well as the most common steel type Pokemon, Galarian Stunfisk, got a huge nerf and basically is not used anymore. But you most likely think right now, why is this team actually so unique? Because the team itself is not that crazy, but here it's actually going to be a little bit interesting. If we take a look at the movesets, it's going to be a little bit different to what most people are going to run. On Medicham, the most common moveset is usually Psychic. Psychic of course got nerfed this season, just slightly though, but still it was considered as the best coverage move, especially for the mirror matchup, which helps out quite a lot there if you have a Medicham against a Medicham. But TheZzweilous decided to go here for the Dynamic Punch instead, a charge move that's going to hit harder as well as going to charge faster, which is going to come in clutch quite often. Also, I tried Dynamic Punch Medicham last season and I really disliked it at the EUIC and I didn't really want to play it anymore, but it seems like the meta shifted kinda towards where Dynamic Punch is the preferred moveset on this Pokemon. Why? Because Psychic got A nerfed, Noctowl disappeared, and other Pokemon took its place. If we're going to take a look now at the top 12 Pokemon for the regional here for the day 2, we're going to see that Psychic only really benefits in the mirror matchup. Yes, you're going to of course have the Venusaur matchup as well, but you're going to have Ice Punch for this one, so for this reason, Dynamic Punch actually going to have way more play against most of the other Pokemon, like a Registeel, like an Umbreon, like a Lickitung, which you're going to see all the time, as well as the Dugong of course, which is going to be a very important Pokemon for later. The even more interesting play though was to drop the legacy move Shadow Claw onto the Alolan Sandslash. Now we're going to run the Powder Snow on it, which was really never seen before. Shadow Claw was always the preferred move on this Pokemon, as you're going to have better matchups against Registeel and Lantern, and even people in the chat were wondering if TheZzweilous was just not able to use an Elite Term on this Pokemon because Powder Snow seemed so out of reach. But this was definitely all intentional, because with the recent rise of grass-type Pokemon Gligar, Umbreon, and most importantly, the Lickitung, the shift to Powder Snow was really worth it. Completely flipping the Lickitung matchup in all even shield scenarios is insanely worth it in the current meta, as you see already. Like, Lickitung is the second most commonly used Pokemon, so it's very likely that you're going to have your lone Sandslash eventually against this Pokemon, and flipping those matchups is super important. Now we were able to look at the team a little bit more, let's take a look at some of the gameplay here, starting with the winners finals against Pedoman. Pedoman is a well-known Spanish trainer who reached rank 1 in the world several times already, also competed already in the World Championship Series last time around, and their team consists of the Deoxys defense, the Registeel, the Dugong, the Swampert, the Lickitung, and the Gligar. It was kinda clear already that Swampert most likely will not see too much play here, as TheZzweilous, Venusaur, Pelipper, as well as Lickitung going to be insanely strong against it, but the Gligar plus Lickitung core looked really scary for TheZzweilous. Going into the first matchup, we're going to see here a very neutral matchup in the lead, but after a little bit of back and forth, TheZzweilous is going to be able to go for a crucial Shadow Claw down on Pedoman's Lickitung, banks 2 charge moves, and comes in clutch later on to flip the match into TheZzweilous' favor, taking the first game. Interestingly enough, for the second game, we're going to see the exact same teams already, and this time around TheZzweilous even got a little bit luckier, not getting the debuff from the Registeel early on from Pedoman, so it's going to be very interesting here, but Pedoman makes a great adaptation and stays in with the Registeel, forcing TheZzweilous to swap out, and this is going to shift the game completely here, as Pedoman is now going to be able to realign their Pokemon and sweeping the endgame with their trusty Gligar here. In game number 3, Pedoman got a great lead here and kinda hard counter TheZzweilous' team, but TheZzweilous actually was able to get a shield advantage against the Lickitung with 2 returns of the Sableye here. While Pelipper has to face the Trash Cannon here as well, which is going to be a very bad matchup in general, they're gonna go into this matchup with a shield as well as an energy advantage, giving TheZzweilous at least a little bit of hope to still flip the matchup. TheZzweilous was able to barely get to an Ice Punch against the Gligar, knocking this one out, while Pelipper is going to be able to clean up this game, allowing TheZzweilous to have a 2-1 advantage here for this game. Most games at those tournaments are best of 3s, but this is already one of the finals, so this is going to be a best of 5, and so TheZzweilous did not win this one yet, but we can move on. For game number 4, TheZzweilous gets a great lead here with the Medicham against a Dugong, but of course it's actually the first time that we see the Dugong from Pedoman, which is going to be interesting, but they're going to swap into the Lickitung, and Medicham is basically the only answer for both the Lickitung as well as the Dugong on TheZzweilous' time, so it's going to be a little bit difficult for TheZzweilous to maneuver around this one. Pedoman makes a great play by farming down the Pelipper just before it gets to another Hurricane, and that's basically the game here, as Pedoman was able to take this huge advantage home and moves on to the final game of this winners final. The deciding game for getting into the grand final going to start with a fairly neutral lead here of the Medicham as well as the Lickitung, which allows Pedoman to get rid of the hardest answer for the Dugong, which is lurking in the back, and again, kinda like the game before, we're going to see another complete farm down of Dugong against the Pelipper, getting out of there with a ton of energy and securing the Pedoman's win here, as TheZzweilous is going to drop now down to the losers bracket and has to face Tomahawk UK. Earlier this day, Tomahawk UK and TheZzweilous already battled it out in the winners bracket, and TheZzweilous got a solid 2-0 win. So let's take a look real quick at Tomahawk UK's team, resulting of the Lantern, the Mantine, the Shadow Alone Sandslash as well, the Diggersby, which is fairly spicy, the Superior as the grass type, as well as the Medicham, which is of course very known. But after the winners bracket matchup, TheZzweilous gave some tactics away to Tomahawk UK, which is going to make this a little bit trickier for TheZzweilous to win, as now Tomahawk UK knows how to play around some stuff. So let's move on into the first game. The first game starts with a Mantine with a Sableye lead, which is fairly neutral, as foul play gonna get caught by a Diggersby here right now, getting instantly punished by the Medicham. Great so far for TheZzweilous, as Lantern wasn't really able to handle TheZzweilous Sableye, and Lickitung was able to clean the game here, giving TheZzweilous the edge for the first game so far. The second game we're going to start very horrible for TheZzweilous, having the lead of Shadow Venusaur with a Shadow Alone Sandslash. And here's the interesting thing, Venusaur can actually flip this matchup in the 2-shit scenario if we hit the first Frenzy Plant here, but this is the tactic that TheZzweilous taught to Tomahawk before, so now he knows he's going to shield this move up, and Venusaur kinda gets hard countered and barely going to get farmed down by a Medicham, which is going to decide the game for Tomahawk UK. So it's the 1-1 as we're going to start in the third match, which is going to have a great lead for TheZzweilous, having the Medicham against the Diggersby giving a huge advantage already, and with this lead, keeping alignment throughout the entire game here, TheZzweilous is going to be able to take up a very easy victory here in the third game. Game number 4 going to start with a matchup of Superior with Sableye. This can actually be the deciding game for TheZzweilous to move on into the finals already, as Sableye is actually having a fairly bad matchup against Superior after the Aerial Ace buff is gonna get outsped. The endgame going to be very insane for this one, because take a look at this. Medicham going to take basically no shields here at all, and it's only back there the 2 shield Sonic the Hedgehog taking down a Medicham. This was basically the biggest flex that you can have in this kind of stage. Moving on to the grand finals against, again, Petoman. Big disadvantage here as he already lost before, and now he has to win 2 best of 5s to win it all. The first game of the grand final going to start very well for TheZzweilous, as we're going to have the Shadow Alone Sandslash versus LilyNiRiain. Now, thanks to the Powder Snow adjustment, we're going to have a very positive matchup that TheZzweilous is going to be able to win in any scenario, which is really good for them. TheZzweilous was able to keep alignment throughout the entire game, but it still was very close, as barely the Medicham was able to survive the Aerial Ace of the Gligar, winning this first game of the grand final. Game number 2 is going to start very horrible for TheZzweilous here, as we're going to see the Sableye into a LilyNiRiain, exactly the matchup that you don't want to face, but after a long LilyNiRiain mirror, Petoman was able to keep the alignment, finish up the game fairly easily with a crucial drill one onto the Sableye, as an ICU and Monster wouldn't have KO'd there, getting the final KO and knocking out TheZzweilous here. So it's 1-1 going into the third game. Third game starts with a very bad matchup for TheZzweilous, but also the team reading wasn't really on point here, as Petoman was actually bringing the entire time LilyNiRiain, Gligar as well as Dewgong, so having the Venusaur on their back is kinda useless against this kind of team, allowing Petoman to get a fairly easy victory here with its trusty Gligar. If Petoman would win this next game, it would be all over for TheZzweilous, of course, but TheZzweilous is not down yet. We're going to have some adjustments here though, so TheZzweilous has to take a little bit of a risk and get some possible matchups, and we're gonna get the best possible matchup here right now with Alone Sandslash versus Gligar in the lead. After keeping alignment, Medicham shows off why Dynamic Punch is so valuable, cleans up a Dewgong at the end and makes it a 2-2. This is going to be the deciding match for the bracket reset, which is going to allow TheZzweilous to have another best of 5 afterwards to take it all. So he's going to get a very good lead here on game number 5, as well as Petoman brings the same team 5 times in a row. Alolan Sandslash is the MVP so far, thanks to Powder Snow getting an insane amount of energy as well as a shield advantage here to do some decent damage against the Dewgong, and after a failed catch, TheZzweilous is going to be able to have so much energy on all its Pokemon to just clean up the game and get the bracket reset. So another best of 5 is coming up, as TheZzweilous is going to be able to counter Petoman's strategy so far. It's very likely that Petoman going to switch up their team after losing twice in a row right now. The first game of the reset going to start with the most annoying matchup of them all, LilyNiRiain Mirrors. Nobody wants to see that, so Petoman going to have also now a little bit of an interesting team here, because Gligar got dropped for the Swampert, which makes the better matchup against the Alone Sandslash, but TheZzweilous is in a very bad spot in general during this game, as the backline is not really ideal for him. So he stays actually in with a debuff Medicham against a Swampert in order to get some shields from them, and then swaps out into the Alone Sandslash, which is going to clean up the game with 2 Ice Punches and only a few HP left. What a game. The second game going to start perfectly for TheZzweilous. Having the Pelipper into the Swampert in the lead is going to be so insanely strong, as Petoman decides to go into their LilyNiRiain to bait out a potential Medicham, but TheZzweilous doesn't fall for it, gets some chip onto the LilyNiRiain, aligns their own LilyNiRiain to it, so they can definitely realign. Pelipper going to still stay on the Swampert, and now there's only a Dewgong in the back for the Medicham, which is going to be such a positive matchup for TheZzweilous to take a 2-0 lead against Petoman in the finals. If TheZzweilous wins the next game, he is going to be the regional winner, but honestly, this adjustment of Petoman was just brilliant. Bringing the Oxus defense in the lead is going to shake it up a little bit, going to give it an early shield advantage here, but the backline is even crazier. He brought basically the entire time the same backline with basically LilyNiRiain as well as the Dewgong in the back, but now they dropped Dewgong for a Gligar, predicting that TheZzweilous would most likely want to keep their Medicham in the back in order to, have something for the potential Dewgong, but as a Petoman is going to have the Gligar now in the back, TheZzweilous completely falls for the trap here right now, which is going to give Petoman a huge win. This was so brilliantly played by this player, honestly amazing. I was like so stunned by this team building there, great play there. But at this point, TheZzweilous still has the match point. If everything goes to plan, it's going to be totally fine here. So, getting a great lead already with LilyNiRiain vs Dewgong, going to be super cool, but also we're going to see a correct bait of Body Slam getting a shield from the Dewgong, forcing Petoman to swap out into their own LilyNiRiain now, as Powder Snow, Alolan Sandslash is finally able to come in, counter it, and going to get a great matchup here. but sadly they're actually gonna go down, but this is going to allow the Sableye to go for a full farm down against Lickitung like before already, and now going for an insane combo play with both the Foul Play as well as the Power Whip coming through here to get a nearly knockout against the Dugong, and now the only one that's left is going to be Deoxys defense standing against a Sableye with 2 shields. Game over.
Conditions for Patoman. TheZzweilous is going to farm up. He's going to throw the Foul Play. Foul Play is going to connect. There are no shields left. There are 2 Foul Plays on TheZzweilous side. This is going to take out the Deoxys defense. And guess what's happening next?
Yes, another Foul Play for the Dugong
attack
here.
priority. Dugong is at 1% HP. The Foul Play is going to connect. And TheZzweilous, the German engineer, is going to win this game.
TheZzweilous is your 2024 special event Barcelona winner. Give it up for TheZzweilous!
This was a story on how TheZzweilous was able to win the regional of Barcelona with some very unique ideas. This video was a ton of work, so if you want to see more videos like this, I think you know what you have to do, right? That's going to be it for me. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.